Hello ladies and welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and in today's video we are going to be going over the good, the bad, and the ugly on the second generation Toyota Solara. Again, I am in my sister's room. I'm in here all the time because it's like the only quiet place in the house and she's never in it, so I'm just like, I'll go in it and I'll record. That way it's quiet. But anyway, today we're going over the Toyota Solara second generation. Good, bad, and ugly. Somebody in my comments is always telling me, do something about the second gen Solara. So here it is, a good, bad, and ugly, all about the car. The way these vids work, in case you're new here, is first I go over kind of like the history of the car, everything you need to know about it. That's like the years made, the generation, the engines it came with, its trim levels, all that stuff. Then I get into what the community usually does with it in terms of modifying. So like obviously something like a Camaro would be heavy in the drag racing scene, or something like a 350Z is going to be heavy in the drift scene. Then I go into the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the way that those work is the good is just things that are good about the car, there's selling points on the car, something a salesman will tell you. And then the bad are things that aren't actually bad. I always have to explain this and people still don't understand what I mean. They're just things that you have to keep your mind on in case you're looking to buy the car. They're kind of things right in the middle. Things like no sunroof options would be something there, you know. And then the ugly are the things that are actual serious problems with that car that you're going to have to address at some point. But without further ado, and then at the end of the video I tell you whether or not I think you should buy the car depending on the current situation you're in. Without further ado, let's go right into the video. Alright, whew. I'm tired. I was just running around outside with my dogs. Years made in the generation of the Toyota Solara second generation. It was made from the years 2003 to 2008, and it is the second generation of the Solara, obviously, and it goes by the chassis code XV30, which I don't know how many people are going to care about that, but there you go. For the trim levels, they are as follows from worst to best: the SE, the SE Sport, and the SLE. No major difference between them, except the SLE is only an automatic, while the others have manual options. So the SLE is more luxurious, I would say, and that's better in terms of what Toyota was trying to do with the car. It's kind of hard because usually I talk about sports cars, and so sports cars, usually the higher trim level is like the one with the manual, and it has all like a roll cage in it or like bucket seats. That's not this car. It's not a sports car. It was meant to be like a luxury tuner, or not tuner, luxury tourer, you know what I mean? So the top of the trim level had more of the like luxurious stuff. But anyway, the engines are as follows. They come with either a 2.4 liter inline 4, and that only makes 157 horsepower, which is obviously nothing super impressive, but it also comes with a 3.3 liter V6 that makes 225 horsepower. And keep in mind, that's during a time when the WRX was also making 225 horsepower. The 330 Ci E46 was making 225 horsepower. IS 300s were making 225 horsepower. SRT4 Neon was making 230. That was decent. Like, that's pretty decent horsepower, honestly. I was surprised. As for the body styles, it is available obviously as a coupe or a convertible, no sedan. So it's, if you want a sedan, get the Camry. That's pretty much what it is. Drivetrains, it is front-wheel drive only. The transmissions, there is a manual and automatic transmission option for you. Get the manual. Price is $3,000 to $7,000. Obviously, these are used cars. It depends on the mileage, depends on the condition. I would say, since it is a Toyota, pretty much a Camry, if you get the inline 4 at least, then you can spend as little as $1,000 on one with 200,000 miles, and it's still going to run for another 100,000 miles. But obviously, 7K is like the max I would spend for this car. Reliability and the gas mileage, obviously, it's incredibly reliable. It's a Toyota. That's about all you need to know. Gas mileage for the V6 is 24 miles per gallon combined, which is obviously pretty damn good for a V6, and the inline 4 is only better. This car was really, really good on gas. All right, but now let's get into what the community usually does with this car when they end up modifying it. As for drifting, obviously this car is not seen because it is front-wheel drive. Duh. As for rally / off-road style builds, obviously it's not seen in that regard either. Street builds is definitely its most popular application because the car does try to blend luxury with performance, and that's usually what you're looking for in street cars. That's why BMWs are such good street cars. That's why Audis are such good street cars. Volkswagen GTIs are super popular in the street racing world because they blend that. You can daily drive it if you need to, but then when you want to have some fun, it's good for that, and that is exactly what the Solara is. For track racing, it's not seen too often, honestly, because it kind of has been forgotten about. I don't think that it isn't seen on the track because it's a bad car. I just think it's not seen on the track because nobody really even knows that it is a car that could be a track car. As for the stance / so scene, obviously it's seen here and there. Like there is some people that stance these cars, but not as much as you would think. There is, in my opinion, a perfect VIP style car if you are into the stance stuff. But again, these cars are underrated. Not a lot of people know about them. Not a lot of people talk about them. So not a lot of people buy them. Not a lot of people modify them. So even though, yes, you do see it sometimes, it's definitely not very popular. All right, but now we are into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And just to refresh your memory, because I'm just in the refreshing mood. The way this works is first I go over the good, which are things that are handy, dandy, mandy, great about this automobile. Then I go into the bad, which aren't actually things that are bad. I'm going to say it again, and people will still not listen. The bad are just things that I think you should keep on your mind in case you're going to buy the car. Things that might be a deal breaker, but they might not affect you whatsoever. Then it is the ugly, and those are actual problems that you're going to have to address with the car. As for the good, let's get right into it. The reliability. It's a Toyota. That's, again, I said it before, I'll say it again. It's pretty much a rebadged Camry coupe. Like, it's reliable as hell. Next is the car is underrated, incredibly underrated. So people, if you do modify it, are going to ask what it is, even people in the car community, and that's always really cool. Next is it's not hard to drive or handle in any ways, so it's very beginner friendly, and it's also very easy to work on. So it's very beginner friendly in terms of like the mechanics side of things as well. Things like you might think like, okay, well I can get a 350Z as a new time buyer. It's got a perfect blend. It has 300 horsepower. It's rear wheel drive. It's a little bit difficult to control, but it can start me learning. It has a manual transmission. It looks cool. It's fun to drive. Blah blah blah. That's a great car for a starter, right? Wrong, because it's really hard to work on 350Zs if you're not already mechanically inclined. They're not the easiest. Next thing for the Solara is it's easy to. Is the insurance? My bad. Is going to be friendly as hell. Again, insurance looks at things like crash rates, engine size, horsepower. Mainly though, crash rates. They look at the cars and they decide, okay, does this car crash a lot? Do a lot of teenagers buy this car and slam into walls with it? If they do, they charge you higher for your insurance. Well, this is pretty much a Camry, and so the crash rates are low, so you're pretty good on that. Next is price for both the car and the parts for it are cheap. There's a ton of them out there, and even if there's not a Solara out there, there's a Camry out there, and they share parts. Next is the interior is actually quite spacious for a coupe. It's surprising. A lot of coupes, tight space. I want a G37 coupe. I've been looking at them. Audi A5s, I've been looking at those as well. And BMW F32 4 Series, I've been looking at those as well. All those interiors, not spacious. This one somehow is. And finally, for the good is for a coupe, the trunk space is also quite nice. Honestly, I was looking at pictures of the trunk space of the Solara and the trunk space of the Camry of the same generation. I think the trunk space in the Solara is significantly better than the one in the Camry. I was very surprised. But yeah, the trunk space and the space inside is just a spacious car in general. Now we are into the bad. I already said it twice. I'm saying it again. These are not things that are actually bad with the car. People on my Scion TC video still comment every day, "You're wrong about this. You're wrong about that." I'm like, dude, it's not me saying like these are actual problems with the car. They're just things that owners have said have bothered them in the past, and so they might be a problem to you as well. First up for the bad though is I always put the exhaust note here in the bad. Again, this is what I mean. Like, I don't actually think these cars sound bad, but I always put the exhaust note here. I put the exhaust note here for a Camaro. Camaros sound great because they're freaking V8s. Every V8 sounds great. I put the exhaust note in the bad anyway because I let you make up your mind on what you think. So here's a clip of the exhaust note of a Toyota Solara. Next is the car is not the biggest neck turner when stock, so you do have to modify it. And once you do modify it, it is a relatively big neck turner because not a lot of people do. Next is the prices will most likely never go up since they're not that big of an enthusiast car. Again, most people don't really care about that. If you're a car guy, you probably couldn't care less if you buy a car and the price goes up or down. You're not looking at it as an investment. You're most likely looking at it as a just way to have fun. And so if you probably don't care about that, but just keep in mind that these are not an enthusiast car. They will not be an enthusiast car anytime soon, I don't think. So I don't think the prices are going to rise of them. Next is a lot of them haven't been taken care of. So be careful looking at them. Again, since they aren't an enthusiast, well, even enthusiast cars sometimes don't get taken care of. Look at the G35s. I mean, Jesus. But a lot of them haven't been taken care of. So just be careful when going to look at them. Yes, they are a Toyota, but that doesn't mean that it can't have any issues whatsoever. There's definitely going to be some issues if the people are just freaking using it as a drum. Next is there's no aftermarket support for this car. Even the Camry platform doesn't really have that much aftermarket support because who really modifies Camrys? Next is that there's pretty much no community for this car either. If you're somebody that likes to get into the communities of these cars, I know I am. I like the Honda community. Ever since I got the Integra, Honda community is great. The VQ community, not so much, but the Honda community was great. But the community for this car is very, very small. Next is the paint seems to fade very easily, which makes total sense, by the way. It's a cheap economy 2000s car from Japan. every one of them have like paint fade at this point, but just keep that in mind. Next is apparently the car does have some evap purge control valve and O2 sensor issues, which is not a big deal. They're pretty much just emissions things, but if they are broken, they could cause your car to run weird. I've heard people like with like certain like European cars, if their O2 sensor has an issue, it goes into limp mode. They can't like drive the car normally until they fix the O2 sensor, which is really weird. Obviously this isn't like that, but just keep that in mind that these cars do have some emissions problems, which it's a 2000s car. Which car doesn't? Next is the car really isn't a race car. Don't expect to be pushing 700 horsepower on a stock block with this thing. It's just not going to happen. And finally, for the bad, is it is just a Toyota. So expect some things to be slow or not work, like a sunroof, radio, windows, etc. Electrical problems are also always common in older Japanese economy cars. So just keep all those things in mind. There's some things that the 2000s, 90s time was a weird time for car makers. They were trying to get into this electrical mumbo jumbo and putting all these weird electrical components in the cars that the cars didn't need and overcomplicating it. And so a lot of those things have broken over time, and it could be the same with this car. But finally, we are into the ugly. And again, these are things that are actual problems, and you will probably most likely have to address them. And first up is the car's automatic transmission is incredibly sluggish. There's only two things in the ugly, and this is one that's incredibly easy to avoid. Just buy a manual. Automatic transmissions from Japan of the early 2000s, late 90s era. This is kind of mid 2000s though, not early, but still of this general era, I have never really been good. I mean, who doesn't want the manual anyway? I mean, come on. And finally, for the ugly, there's only two things, because this car really doesn't have that many big issues. Is it does tend to have some ignition coil problems after 100,000 miles quite frequently, apparently. A lot of forums out there, a lot of people out there that have owned this car say that their ignition coils decide to go to the great beyond after 100,000 miles. Is that a major issue? Not if you catch it. If you don't catch it, well, I mean, it's kind of hard not to catch it, but if you don't catch it and you let it run with bad ignition coils, it obviously is going to misfire like crazy. So there are some bad parts there, but honestly, it was kind of a stretch putting this in the ugly, because it's really not that big a deal. They're not expensive whatsoever. It's pretty easy fix, and it's very obvious to notice too. It'll throw a code, read the code, it'll say you have a misfire, and you just gotta fix the coils. So my final thoughts though, do I think you should buy this automobile depending on the current situation you're in? Well, I have 5, 4, my bad, situations, and I'm going to tell you whether or not I think you should buy it if you're in this situation. Do you need a daily driver? If you do, then it's an absolutely incredible choice. There's no serious issues to report on any websites, and the car is incredibly cheap, and it's a Toyota. Do you need a daily driver, but you're a car guy, and you want something, you know, obviously car guys, they buy daily drivers that are not the best, most reliable cars out there, because we like to have a little bit of fun as well, but we still want to have a little bit of reliability in there. Well, then this is also another good choice for you, because if you like the design at least, because it does mix, you know, practicality with a little bit of sportiness. So it is actually a pretty good option for you as well. Do you want a Sunday cruiser? Obviously, that's a lot different than a daily. I would not purchase this with the intent of using it as a Sunday cruiser. They're cheap, reliable Toyotas, so just drive it whenever you want. Enjoy it. You don't have to worry about storing this in a garage and making sure it doesn't break, or, you know, keeping up on all the maintenance on the car or anything like that. It's a Toyota. It'll be fine. Do you want a race car / a project car? This one's interesting, because it would be really cool to see somebody build this into like a race car, like almost like a Civic type thing, you know, that would be sick. Although I'm definitely not going to go out there and recommend building it over those other cars, because it's obviously not done for a reason. These cars aren't as good of a little race car / project car as a Civic, because they're heavier, their motors aren't the best for handling power compared to them, and they're more reliable. Well, I would say they're equally reliable, but still, they're not better for building than a Civic. So it's kind of hard to recommend buying one of these over something like that, like any other tuner car for sure, but it still would be really cool to see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of the good, the bad, and the ugly on the Toyota Solara 2nd generation. Let me know what other good, bad, and uglies you'd like to see in the comment section down below. Of course, that's how I get these videos. So if you want to see a different good, bad, and ugly, let me know. Also, for people that are like, oh man, this man is closing in on 100,000 subscribers, I wonder what he's gonna do. I'm trying. I'm trying to get the video like ready, so that when I actually hit 100,000 subscribers, it can be the video for that day. Because usually what happens is I'll reach like 90,000 subscribers, and so I'll do the 90,000 celebration video like 3 days later, because then I start making the video then. But I've been trying to make it now, but while also uploading a video every day to keep you guys entertained throughout the week, while also working on this, I want to say big video, but when you guys see it, you're just gonna be like, it's not that big, but big to me video in the background. And so it's kind of tough, man. It's just freaking, I feel like I'm running a marathon, but it's worth it because you guys have got me to 100,000 subscribers. Well, we're at 98,000 right now, but 2,000 away. I mean, come on, partner. We're so close. We're so close. So it's worth it, you know, work hard, give you guys what you guys deserve. You guys have been the greatest audience ever. So yeah. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Let me know if the videos you'd like to see. Das vidania. Have a nice night.